So this is probably the worst way to start a sentence, but I saw a TikTok and it made me mad. And while the premise of the TikTok and the title and everything about it is obviously clickbait made to make baseball fans angry, and then engage with it.
Because the real answer is fine. Actual playing time in an MLB game averages just 9 minutes and 55 seconds.
I'm also incredibly stupid and easy to agitate, so I'm gonna engage with it.
If you had to guess how much actual playing time happens during an MLB game, what would you guess? Because the real answer is shocking. Actual playing time in an MLB game averages just 9 minutes and 55 seconds.
That's a bit odd, right? Like if playing time is only defined as having the ball in play, then I guess that might be true, but it should be obvious to anyone who's ever watched a baseball, seen a baseball, or knows what a batter and a pitcher is, that baseball's mostly about that batter and pitcher matchup. That's the real juice.
The action is the juice.
The waiting is kind of the fun part in most sports as it is.
He throws. Trout strikes out swinging.
In fact, waiting is the fun part in everything in life.
There's a time in life
Hey man, what's going on?
when you almost have it all figured out.
Did I just wake up and realize I'm a loser?
Yeah, man.
It builds tension. And don't take my word for it, that was said by Alfred Hitchcock, kind of. He didn't say it exactly like that, but he did say a similar thing. Essentially, he made up this scenario where there's a bomb under a table and it blows up, and that the audience will like it more if you tell the audience beforehand that there's a bomb that will go off in 5 minutes, as they will be waiting on the tension. The whole conversation becomes much more dire. It makes the movie more fun. It's cinema.
Well, the whole emotion of the audience is totally different because you've given them that information that in 5 minutes' time, that bomb will go off. Now the conversation about baseball becomes very vital because they're saying to you, don't be ridiculous, stop talking about baseball.
All good things in life reward patience. I read that in a fortune cookie. I also read that I can open doors with my charm, patience, and creative promotional items like custom fortune cookies. Anyway, baseball is one of those good things that rewards patience. It's a pastime, something that doesn't pretend it isn't just a little boring. And I respect it for that, but also, it's not boring. And I also think that this patience that baseball asks of you has led to some of the most incredible sporting moments of all time. Like this one.
Strikes out swinging.
And this one.
Sits a high drive center field. Veer leans back. This game is turned upside down.
And maybe that one.
Quick move. Oh my gosh, it gets Escobar right in his groin area.
And to watch baseball for only the balls in play would be like only watching American football when either team is in the red zone. It's nonsensical.
Some fan threw something right out on the field too, at about the 1 yard line.
Yeah, initially I thought it might have been a flag, but
The journey will always be more important than the destination, and roses are red, and violets are blue, and you can order custom fortune cookies for your wedding too? Okay, so, I wanted to dispute the claim that baseball is boring, as it's not boring. And actually, it's really fun and interesting. So just a couple of days ago, I wrote this on April 21st, 2023. There was a really great regular season baseball game with a couple of innings that I think really highlight the pressure and fun of baseball. Let's talk about it.
It's mariachi night at Dodger Stadium. Mariachi Las Catrinas entertaining the fans. It's also Vin Scully t-shirt night. I believe Vin was a big fan of mariachi bands.
yeah, who's not?
There's your Tri-Honda Mets starting lineup. Eduardo Escobar back in the lineup after Brent Beatty got the start last night. Tommy Pham in center field, so Brandon Nimmo will DH. And Tomas Nido starts for the second straight game. I think Brandon wanted to call for time because he wanted to hear the end of the mariachi tune.
On April 18th, 2023, the New York Mets played the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California, in the United States, on planet Earth. Both teams are pretty good at baseball, and the matchup looked to be one that could produce some dramatic games. The day before was a shootout where both teams traded the lead over and over before the Mets were able to ultimately pull ahead, and today, the Dodgers were looking to strike back with ace pitcher and arguably one of the greatest pitchers of all time, Clayton Kershaw, on the mound tonight. Now, the Mets offense is pretty good on paper. They were one of the best teams the previous year and not much has changed. It's Clayton's job to hold these Mets to as few runs as possible, which is a tall task considering Clayton's prime is well behind him. Bullish Baseball actually made a great video about this that you should check out, and you should check out his whole channel. He's great. Anyway, this isn't to say that Clayton is washed up. It's actually quite the opposite. He was an all-star last year and has proven time and time again that even as he ages, he's still one of the best pitchers in the league, and again, of all time.
There it is! Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers strikeout king.
Clayton's record against the Mets has been outstanding. He's never lost a game to them and has given up an average of less than 2.5 runs per game over all of his matchups. For some reason, he's just a psycho Met killer. But also, baseball is a crazy sport and anything can happen tonight. Past results do not necessarily predict future outcomes. People get older and often regress to the mean as time passes, and this might be Clayton's fate tonight. And I sure hope it happens because I'm a Mets fan. Let's go Mets, baby. Hit a home run, make that Kershaw guy weep on the mound. Anyway, so Clayton wants to prove he still has it tonight, and if he does prove it, he will record his 200th win. So wins for starting pitchers are this kind of old and meaningless statistic, but people still like it, that essentially tracks their effectiveness in games that they start. There are other ways to get wins too, but we're just talking about starting pitchers here. Honestly, wins for a pitcher is a really confusing thing to explain, but all that matters is that it matters to Clayton Kershaw tonight. So if he can get through 6+ innings of good pitching without allowing a ton of runs, because if the other team scores more runs than your team, you probably won't win the game, then he'll enter that 200+ win club with the best win percentage of anyone in it. He is really good, and the reason why he's really good is because he throws very effective and precise pitches mixed up perfectly. It's basically unfair. The batter has to choose to swing at about this moment, and this is all the pitches he throws overlaid at that moment.
And the curveball hit toward the middle to his left. Rojas smothers it and has no chance to throw out Lindor.
It's nuts. He's a crazy guy. He's one of the greatest of all time. Got it? Great, cool. So let's start that game. Top of the first inning, and we have the Mets leadoff hitter Brandon Nimmo at the bat. And here's a Brie Mabel disclaimer. I might have said that I'm stupid, and I was right. I am pretty stupid. But I like watching things, and baseball, and I haven't had any formal baseball pitching training. To be honest, most of my analysis is vibes-based, and that's okay. It's fun to think about things. You should think about things. Love you. Mwah. So for a starting pitcher, this first inning of work will typically set the tone for the rest of the game, since MLB teams will put their best players at the top of the lineup so that they get as many at-bats as possible. And his first pitch here will vary depending on the hitter, but generally speaking, he tries to throw his fastball for a strike right away to get the count on his side.
And it is taken for a strike.
It's also usually not good to swing at the first pitch as a batter unless you really track it well, as the odds of you hitting it are always low, and if you miss, you put the same pressure on yourself as if you had never swung and they threw a strike. Essentially, Nimmo, being in this leadoff spot, and most batters in this situation, are saying to the pitcher, "I'll let you prove that you can throw me a strike. Gets me a better idea of what you're throwing today." And he does exactly that. And this isn't to say you should never swing at the first pitch of a game. It's just kind of a gamble to do it. It could go bad, it could go good.
Julio goes oppo. Deep drive, right field. Got Terry. Bye-bye! 1-0 Mariners!
It'll usually go bad though, and the best immediate gain you can get is a solo home run, which is pretty good obviously. It's a point for your team. However, getting on base is usually better as the leadoff hitter. That's why they're the leadoff hitter.
Nimmo's on with a walk. No problems. And he walks Nimmo. And the fastball outside, ball 4 against left-hand hitters. And he walks Nimmo on 4 pitches.
But that's the game. That's what we're watching here. There's a lot of intangibility to baseball, and that's the fun of it. Anyway, this puts Kershaw ahead in the at-bat, and his options open up a lot. He chooses to go back to that fastball and is trying to dot one inside for strike 2, but misses his mark. We know where he's trying to throw it because of where the glove is, by the way. Nimmo probably doesn't want to swing at this because it's an awkward spot even if it finds the zone, and Kershaw is testing him to see what he'll do on the same pitch inside. Nimmo doesn't bite. 1 strike, 1 ball. For the next pitch, Kershaw is going to change up the speed and show Nimmo his slider to the outside corner. Now, Kershaw's slider is actually very similar to his fastball, and that's what's devious about it. It's only 3 miles per hour slower, and it'll break on the inside towards his glove here. That's scary for the batter, because at a certain point it's going to look like a fastball before it just absolutely dies into the bottom right corner. This is where he loves to throw his slider, and it's a good way to test the batter's ability to track the ball and your throwing velocity. So now he misses the strike zone here, but I think that it was on purpose, as we can see by the catcher's glove. He threw this exactly where he wanted to. The goal was to see what Nimmo would do in this situation, and Nimmo had the timing of his swing pretty good, but swung a little too high, so the ball went straight into the ground. Now Nimmo here is swinging at where the pitch is usually targeted, which is the bottom corner of the strike zone. I think that Kershaw intentionally threw this a little lower for that exact reason. He knows that Nimmo studied him, so he needs to mix it up a little bit and show that he can throw it, but to not give him exactly what he wants. Kershaw is essentially taking the tempo here. And for the next pitch, Kershaw is going to throw that same slider, but miss his mark a little inside and a little high. The ball simply didn't break as much as he wanted to, and this is always the risk of throwing the slider for a pitcher. And Nimmo did a good job of tracking it and made really good contact. And this is the moment every pitcher and fan dreads, because that sounded like good contact, and this ball is driving out into play. The pitcher and the fans just have to watch as this ball sails into the outfield right into Jason Hayward's glove, and okay, well, I guess he dropped it. Well, that's unfortunate, but that's one of the benefits that the pitcher has here, is that even the best hitters are only going to make good contact with an honest mistake and actually record a hit 30% of the time. And it wasn't that bad of a pitch. Still low, just a little bit more inside than he wanted. Honestly, for Clayton, this is an okay outcome because it's a fielding error. The fielder definitely should have caught that, but it does put him in an incredibly rough situation as Nimmo pulled into third on this play, and that sucks. The danger of a run scoring for the Mets is now very high. If the next 2 batters even get a cheesy little ground out or a deep enough fly out, Nimmo will score the game's first run. And from Kershaw's point of view, if the other team scores runs, even if they're not his fault, it's not good. So, Clayton's gonna have to do a lot of work to get out of this inning unscathed, and first up is Starling Marte. Let's watch those pitches.
So now Nimmo on third. Starling Marte waves at the first pitch to fall behind 0-1. Game below 500. Marte shoots one foul. It's 0-2.
Or the bullpen, which has really struggled.
Really trouble after the E9. He's still going to have to battle with Marte. Foul. Marte just staying alive.
Or Uncle Charlie.
Okay, he got through it nicely. It was a battle, but he struck out Marte with his savage curveball. This thing is really nice if thrown perfectly, as Kershaw did here, because the batter is timing and watching the slider and the fastball primarily to see where they're going to end up. And the curveball is way slower than both and moves so much in the air that it's incredibly hard to hit, but it's tempting to take a shot because it's so slow. Even in that same at bat, he threw a bad curveball as his second pitch, and Marte jumped all over it, but his swing was just a little late. Even if it ends up a little off, it's the perfect mix-up for his pitching mix. Like I said, batters have to decide what to swing at when it reaches about here. When all 3 of your pitches go pretty different speeds and do different things in the air. They all sound different, but when they hit this part, they're all pretty clumped up, which is the difficulty of hitting, and it's why batting looks impossible. That's because it kind of is. And when we look at all the pitches overlaid, it makes sense that Marte sniffed that curveball being off. It's way up here, but you still have to make an incredibly quick turn with the bat to properly react when the other 2 pitches you're watching for are an 89 mile per hour slider and a 91 to 92 mile per hour fastball. And when one of the greatest of all time throws a bad pitch, it catches you off guard. That's part of the benefit of being one of the greatest of all time. It kind of opens you up to be allowed to make the occasional mistake because batters just assume that you're on today. They have to. And this also reinforces why swinging at the first pitch is kind of a gamble, because you have to be completely sure, and then you're on your back foot if you make a mistake. Now that you've taken an action, it's human nature to feel a little bit more pressure. The heat's on, and this is why you let the trolley kill 5 people. You at least didn't act. Or something. I actually don't know how I would handle the trolley problem. It's a trolley problem. It's probably like a trolley problem. Anyway, You're behind, and it's your fault. And one could argue that's why he threw the fastball down the center of the plate to open the game. The other batters are watching what he's doing to find some way to predict him. If he chooses to do the most blatantly dangerous thing as a pitcher, it opens the door for the first pitch swings on further at-bats. He'll now iterate on that first pitch to all the batters and choose different target speeds and pitch types. It's a really great way to take control as a pitcher, and Kershaw is one of the greatest of all time for this reason. Back to that strikeout though. Bruce Lee once said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." And you will buy an inspiring cookbook. Wait, that one was a fortune cookie. God, okay. Anyway, Kershaw has perfected his slider and fastball mix, and batters will end up swinging at his also really good curveballs thinking they were junk. He's one of the greatest of all time for this reason. He's practiced 3 kicks 10,000 times, but only uses the third kick when you're least expecting it. It's the art of war. It's dastardly. It's incredibly entertaining. And I'm a Mets fan, by the way. I'm watching my dudes get absolutely obliterated by a guy playing like he's 28 again and saying things like, "Man, this guy's a demon. He's so good. He's booming us right now." And smiling, because I know when something cool is happening. And that's baseball. When a dude is on his game, it's the most incredible sport. Next up is Francisco Lindor, one of the Mets' most consistent offensive pieces.
For the National League lead, and he wastes no time swinging and fouling back a fastball, nothing in one. High stretch, and he throws that curveball again and gets a swinging strike, and it's 0-2. And Lindor takes a slider low and hit him just 1-2 games. And the curveball strikes out Lindor.
And he struck out in 4. Okay, wow. So Kershaw again starts Lindor with a fastball after starting Marte with the slider. Again, anticipating that batters might swing on the first pitch now. So he needs to mix up that pitch type, speed, and position. Like I said before, it's perfect. And Lindor is swinging at anything trying to score Nimmo from third, as once there are 2 outs, you can no longer record an out and score the runner from third. That's the rules. He throws that wicked curveball for the second pitch to see what Lindor will chase, and follows it up with a slider that he misses way outside. He was looking for the slider on the bottom of the strike zone to potentially cheese Lindor out of this inning. He then goes back to the curve for the next pitch and misses high, but Lindor is a bit early on his swing and swings just under the ball. Again, hitting looks completely impossible. I mean, look at it. Pitching is so crazy. Kershaw missed, but he's gonna get away with it here. That's fun baseball. It's tricksy. And with the threat of an out scoring the run from third being gone, you may think that Kershaw can take a sigh of relief, but he can't, because the next batter is Pete Alonso, who's a big-time slugger and one of the best hitters in the entire league.
You see how he attacks him.
And he attacked him with a fastball, and Pete fouled it back. Oh, resting on the right foot. And he gets that curveball over to Alonso, and it's 0-2.
Backdoor hook. Well, he's out of the chute. Making pitches.
If he goes to the curveball again, he'll want this one to be in the dirt.
2 coming to Alonso, and he goes with the fastball, and Pete fouls it off. Well, you're right about the difference in velocity. And Pete dribbles one up the third baseline. It'll go foul. Another curveball, and Pete was able to at least make contact after both Marte and Lindor struck out on the curve. Well, only 2 pitchers in Dodger history, not just the LA Dodgers, the entire Dodger history have won 200 games as a Dodger, Don Sutton and Don Drysdale. And Clayton Kershaw trying to become the 3rd. He's ahead on Alonso 0-2, and Pete grounds that one foul on the slider.
Pete making it tough. Pete's become just really a tough out, a good 2-strike hitter.
Nimmo at third with 2 out.
Coming in.
And Alonso goes down swinging at the fastball. Kershaw works around Hayward's error, strikes out 3 in a row, and leaves Nimmo stranded. What a start.
He starts Pete with the fastball, this time low in the zone, and this once again puts Kershaw at an advantage, and a second pitch curveball that is definitely not a strike, but the catcher grabs it and moves it inside perfectly to frame it and make it look like one. He then goes back to those 2 exact same pitches because he's a dastardly little devil, that Kershaw, and Pete hacks at both. And now this second curveball is even more dastardly because it's so close, and now that the strike zone has been widened by that first curveball, Pete kind of has to offer at it. It's certainly an annoying place to have to try to hit that ball, but he's got to go for it. That was a strike before. So we're still at 0-2, and Kershaw now goes to his slider, which Pete has not seen yet at this at-bat, and it's a pitch that Pete would like to hit. He's a good breaking ball hitter, and it didn't quite break that much, but just having that change in speed and that breaking action, and Pete is in panic mode here, so he's gonna swing and foul it down. Kershaw has had massive priority this whole time. This 0-2 count is just devilish. It's so hard to bat from this place. Kershaw throws a fastball here, and Pete just swings barely under it, and maybe a little late, and Kershaw's out of this jam. He perfectly conditioned and mind game Pete with the sequencing here. It's really something. When you win the mind game, it really does help alleviate your mistakes. He didn't have perfect pitches that at bat, but Pete was just completely on his back foot the whole time. And that's really great baseball. There's something clearly at stake and there's a guy playing perfectly out there. Baseball isn't boring. And now what if I told you that this wasn't even my favorite inning in this game? Because it isn't. There's like some amount of minutes left in this video. So let's talk about the 7th inning, where Clayton's drive for his 200th win really took off.
Pete. Look at that sunset developing.
Makes me want to go get an Uber and go out to the beach. We need you.
We can get you a black car if you need one.
So after absolutely tearing up the Mets for innings 2 through 6,
Second baseman Vargas. Ground ball to left side. Escobar pops from out to the shallow right. And they will come on. Eagle and Kershaw's first pitch slices one to right field. And the curveball hit the other way. Toward left field. The right to right. The catch there. Same fit here in the field. Now the fastball. He gets this one here to shallow right. He will start it back. Now coming on. Switch ground to Kershaw. Fields it. We'll tap it back to Kershaw. Likes to get really quick.
For W today. We'll see how he handles the meeting.
Kershaw. Nice pitch from Clayton Kershaw. That slash to left field. It's a ground ball. Muncy. The scoop up and full across. 1, 2, 3.
Kershaw would head into the 7th inning with 71 pitches under his belt and no signs of stopping. This 71 pitches number is incredibly important because if he has a quick and efficient inning, then there's a pretty good chance he comes back in the 8th inning to keep trucking these Mets. Clayton looks great tonight, and the Mets want this inning to be his last. For context, most starting pitchers nowadays go about 6 innings on a normal day, 7 innings on a great day, and 8 innings on a spectacular day. They don't pitch the whole game anymore because throwing these crazy pitches is hard, and the managers can just throw in a mutant arm whenever they want to keep the starting guy happy and healthy. It's the current strategy of baseball. Does it kind of suck? I don't know, kind of, but that's okay. Whatever. It's more baseball and it's still a lot of fun. Anyway, the Mets additionally are in crunch time because Dodgers designated hitter JD Martinez has hit 2 home runs this game and the score is Dodgers 3, Mets 0. If they want any chance of getting back into this very reachable game, then they need to get Kershaw on the bench and a new, likely less good arm on the mound. Francisco Lindor is the first batter up, and he absolutely battles with Kershaw, who is starting to look a little tired but still great. And on the 9th pitch of that at bat, which is a big deal because he's been absolutely dicing up the Mets at about 10 pitches per inning, and Kershaw misses, but Lindor assumes that his miss will be a little different, so he strikes out swinging. Kershaw flashes a little smile, and Lindor looks back with him with this shit-eating look that says, "I had that, and you got lucky. You fucked up that slider worse than I thought you did." It's perfect stuff. It's so much fun. This first at-bat of this inning shows the Mets' game plan at this point. They're trying to get Kershaw out of this game by using good plate discipline and fouling balls off. If they can just wear out Kershaw, they'll absolutely have a chance to get back into this game. Lindor battled and struck out, and next up is Pete Alonso, who swings at the first fastball and fouls it back. He then swings at a wicked curveball in the dirt, and it's 0-2. Kershaw has Pete on his back foot, which is really bad news for Pete yet again. Kershaw throws a wicked slider that Pete just swings it right over, and Pete is astonished at where that ball even went. To Pete, this likely looked like a bad slider that he was absolutely going to crush as it sailed down the middle with no break, similar to the pitch that Lindor just struck out on. This one just barely slides out of reach. It's a beautiful pitch. Clayton is making one of the best hitters in the league look like a chump. It's going to be super hard to wear this guy out if you're just going to swing right over his sliders. Incredible stuff. This brings up Mark Canha, and this at-bat is the piece de resistance to the Mets game plan here. Mark Canha has elite plate vision. He's always going to make a pitcher work super hard, and his at-bat really starts when he has 2 strikes. A true at-bat battler, and he came to play. Kershaw's command is starting to wear down a little on the first few pitches, and he gets into a 3-1 count before Mark swings over a nice slider to bring us to a full count, the most tense situation in almost any sport. I say almost because I don't feel like thinking of another sports situation. How about you just take my word for it? Anyway, So, any mistake by either the batter or the pitcher here will produce an outcome, either a hit or a walk. I assume everybody knows that, but that's the tension. We will see two guys absolutely duke it out now to prove that they are the better. Let's take a look at what happens now. Let's watch these two guys battle. Okay.
Sliders here. He might try to finish him off with a fastball away. Let's see if he changes it up.
3-2 from Kershaw. Canna grounds one foul. Then a slider on 3-2. Canna skies one foul.
That's what the Mets do.
Again, the 3-2. Gets one foul on the slider. Ninth pitch from Kershaw to Canna. And it'll be a 10.
You're right, Gary.
Canna dribbles one foul, another slider from Kershaw.
Off that pitch.
10 pitches deep, but Canna's still in there. And the curveball fouled off. He did very well to foul that pitch away.
I was just wondering if he was brave enough to throw a 3-2 breaking ball after all those sliders and fastballs, and he is, of course.
Pitch number 12 coming. Fouls it off his body. He's throwing fastballs, he's throwing sliders, he's throwing the one curveball. He's trying all his weapons combined. And he punches one into right field, and Canna wins the battle. Just a little flare the other way on the 13th pitch of the at-bat.
Watching this at-bat live had me on the edge of my couch, on the edge of my seat of my couch, on the edge of my seat, the battle continuing with each foul ball making my blood boil even hotter. It was so much fun, and it wasn't quite like this watching it at home. Obviously, there's no music when you watch baseball, but this is how it felt to me. It was so much fun, and this is why I think baseball isn't boring. And things like this at bat happen all the time. And also a bit unrelated, but I think that the pitch clock really enhanced this situation. It made it so Clayton really didn't have any time for breaks, and neither did Mark. They just kind of had to go back and forth within 30 seconds each time and get ready, throw, and try to hit. That's all that they had, and it was so much fun to watch, and the pace was so quick. If you're new to watching baseball, and that's kind of who this video is for anyway, I highly recommend watching it now that the pitch clock's in. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. And considering that I'm a Mets fan, you probably assume that I really loved this because Mark was battling and fouling off all of these pitches somehow, some way. But Kershaw was battling back just as hard. He wants that 200th win. He alternated speed and pitch type for every single pitch, trying to set up the fastball and the slider to fool Mark. But Mark was not having any of it and taking a piece of every single pitch he saw. My favorite moment was pitch 11 when Clayton threw a curveball way outside, but Mark went and got it.
Curveball fouled off. He did very well to foul that pitch away.
This moment is incredibly cool because you could chalk it up to being a mistake by both sides. Clayton maybe didn't throw it exactly where he wanted to, and maybe Mark shouldn't have swung at that. But my charitable read is that Mark saw that curveball outside and he went and fouled it off because he wants Clayton to really force him to make it happen. That's beauty. That's a boxing match. They're feinting and ducking and diving between punches and conditioning each other to make a crucial mistake. It's beautiful. And one additional thing here in regards to the pitch clock is now the batter is at a huge advantage if they can draw a really long at bat. The wear and tear here for the pitcher is so much higher than the batter, and it's higher than it was without the pitch clock. Every pitch with no breaks increases the chance that Mark can get a piece of one for real this time. Mark won the battle and is on base, and Clayton is clearly having so much fun. I mean, just look at him. He knows how awesome this was. 13 pitches and a base hit. Just a true battle and a guy respecting his opponent. Both guys on the edge to get it done. That's baseball, but we aren't done yet. Kershaw is clearly absolutely gassed after that 13 pitch at bat, and he throws the first slider here down.
And McNeil lines one into center field for a base hit. Cannon turns second, he'll go on to third. And the Mets have runners at the corners with 2 out. The time.
This is the first time all night it has felt like Kershaw is on the back foot, and you can see it in his eyes. He needs to refocus and get this last out to secure his potential 200th win. Jeff McNeil was able to take advantage of Kershaw's tiredness, but will Tommy Pham be able to? First pitch, and it's a high fastball that misses just above the outside corner. Not a good sign for Kershaw. Second pitch is a slider that goes straight into the ground. A very not good sign for Kershaw. No breaks, pitch clock running, and he throws a pitch that Pham absolutely should have swung at. And this isn't a criticism of Pham, by the way. Hitting is practically impossible. I don't mean him any ill will, but a hanging slider on a 2-0 count is prime home run fodder. It's okay though. He's getting a feel for the at-bat here. Also, when Kershaw makes a mistake, it's easy to feel like it was intentional. Remember, this is one of the greatest of all time here. So who knows? Anyway, so, Kershaw throws a nasty high fastball on the next pitch, and he's clearly in this again. This is where he wanted that burst fastball, and this one's absolutely perfect. Pham is drowning at this moment. 103 pitches now, Kershaw throws his curveball, but Pham doesn't bite. Count full once again. Either guy makes a mistake here and the game changes significantly. Let's see what he throws.
At 2-0, they were sitting on their hands. Once it got to 2 strikes, they're on their feet.
Clayton Kershaw with his 9th of the night.
And that, my friends, is why baseball isn't boring. Moments like this happen every day. Innings that are incredible. Pitcher-batter matchups where dudes are fighting and showing the extent of their sporting prowess. You should watch some baseball. Get a team you like. I recommend a good one, like these ones. There's a lot of baseball to watch. 162 games where anything can happen. It's a wonderful way to pass the time. It's America's pastime. And if you're indecisive, I recommend being a Mets fan because they're fun and their broadcast team is the best in the business, so you get a fun podcast along with your game. It's like a podcast of 3 dads.
That's going to be Wainwright for the Cardinals.
Odorizzi, maybe?
Odorizzi, you're right. Did you just say it, Gary? Did you say it? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. How many times have I done that over our 17 years?
Anyway, hope you watch some baseball, and I'll see you in the next Baseball Bree-Mable. Hit my Patreon zone and smack that Twitter button and demolish the subscribe widget below, and you'll get more gobbledygook about movies and baseball, and I'll see you in the next one. I already said that. Okay, bye!